Most people panic when someone they care about pulls away. They think if they just reach out one more time, explain themselves, or stay in constant contact, they'll fix everything. But the truth is, the more you chase, the faster they run. That's why the no contact rule isn't just a strategy. It's psychological warfare. It works on a deeper level than you realize. Because silence does what words never can. It creates space, tension, and curiosity. When you disappear, they're forced to confront the void you used to fill. They start replaying memories, questioning their choices, and wondering why you suddenly stopped trying. No contact flips the power dynamic. You go from being the one seeking closure to being the one she can't stop thinking about. It's not about revenge, it's about reclaiming control, emotionally, mentally, and energetically. And today, I'm going to break down exactly why the no contact rule works, how it rewires her attraction, and how to use it the right way to make her chase you again. Most people panic when someone they care about pulls away. They think if they just reach out one more time, explain themselves, or stay in constant contact, they'll fix everything. But the truth is, the more you chase, the faster they run. That's why the no contact rule isn't just a strategy. It's psychological warfare. It works on a deeper level than you realize, because silence does what words never can. It creates space, tension, and curiosity. When you disappear, they're forced to confront the void you used to fill. They start replaying memories, questioning their choices, and wondering why you suddenly stopped trying. No contact flips the power dynamic. You go from being the one seeking closure to being the one she can't stop thinking about. It's not about revenge, it's about reclaiming control, emotionally, mentally, and energetically. And today, I'm going to break down exactly why the no contact rule works, how it rewires her attraction, and how to use it the right way to make her chase you again. Point 2. It shifts the power dynamic instantly. Before you apply no contact, she's in control. You're reacting, waiting for her messages, adjusting your mood based on how much attention she gives you. That's the position most men stay trapped in, powerless, emotional, chasing validation. But when you stop reaching out, when you suddenly go silent, everything flips. You take your energy back, and she feels it. Because power in relationships doesn't belong to the one who speaks the most. It belongs to the one who can stay silent the longest. When you pull away, you break the pattern she's been used to. Suddenly, she's no longer the center of attention. The validation she unconsciously got from your effort, your calls, your texts, it's gone. That's when the shift begins. Now she's the one feeling the imbalance. She starts wondering where your energy went, who's getting it now, and why you seem so calm about the distance. That mystery pulls her in. It makes her start chasing without realizing she's doing it. This is psychological leverage at its finest. Humans crave what they feel slipping away. When you stop chasing, she doesn't see it as indifference. She sees it as strength. The same man who once seemed emotionally dependent now appears disciplined, grounded, and in control. And that contrast triggers attraction on a primal level, because women are drawn to men who lead with composure, not emotion. Most men fail because they break no contact too soon. The moment she shows even a little sign of life, a story post, a like, a vague text, they jump back in, thinking the power has returned. But here's the truth. If you re-engage too early, you give it all back. The key is to stay silent long enough for her to truly feel the loss, not just notice it. No contact works because it rebalances emotional investment. You stop bleeding energy into something that wasn't feeding you. You stop handing her control of your emotions. The moment you decide, I won't chase anymore, you instantly elevate yourself from the needy category to the respected one. And when that shift happens, everything changes. Now she's the one analyzing your silence, wondering if she lost her grip, and that's when the chase begins again. Point 3. It forces emotional reflection. One of the most powerful effects of the no contact rule is that it forces her to sit alone with her thoughts, something most people avoid at all costs. When you're constantly texting, explaining, and trying to fix things, she never has to process her emotions. You become her distraction, not her realization. But when you step back and go silent, that distraction disappears. Suddenly, the emotional noise fades, and she's left facing the truth she's been running from. That's when clarity starts to hit. At first, she might feel relief. She might think, finally, he stopped reaching out. But give it time. The silence stretches, and her mind begins to wander. The messages that once annoyed her start to feel like comfort. The calls she used to ignore start to feel like connection. And that's when the doubt creeps in. Did I make a mistake? Why hasn't he texted? Was I too harsh? That's the emotional reflection no contact creates. It makes her confront the value of what she lost. Psychologically, this happens because humans don't respond to words. They respond to absence. When something or someone disappears from their routine, their brain releases cortisol, the stress hormone tied to loss and uncertainty. That emotional discomfort pushes her to reevaluate what she had. You can't talk her into missing you. You have to let her feel the absence, and no contact is the only way to make that happen. Most men ruin this process by breaking silence too soon. They check in, hoping she's had enough time to think. But what they don't realize is that the thinking begins only after she believes you've truly walked away. That's when reflection turns into realization, and realization turns into regret. You can't rush that. The space has to grow before her emotions can catch up. So understand this. No contact isn't about punishment. It's about creating space for emotional truth. When you stay silent, you're not being cruel. You're giving her the room to finally understand what your presence really meant. Because when a woman starts reflecting instead of reacting, she begins to see the difference between attention and value. And that's when she starts missing you for real. Not for what you said, but for how your absence makes her feel. Point 4, it rebuilds your value through scarcity. When you're constantly available, constantly reaching out, you become common. And what's common loses value fast. But when you step into no contact, you do something powerful. You become scarce. And scarcity always amplifies value. It's simple human psychology. The less accessible something is, the more desirable it becomes. Before no contact, she knew where to find you. You were just one text away. But when you disappear, she feels that sudden gap in energy. And that gap makes her start remembering what she once took for granted. Here's what happens inside her mind. When you were always around, she didn't have to think about you. You were predictable. She could reply when she wanted, knowing you'd still be there. But when you vanish, she loses that emotional security. Suddenly, your attention, once constant, is gone. And now, every moment she doesn't hear from you becomes a reminder of how much you used to give. That's when the nostalgia starts. The small moments she ignored before suddenly feel bigger. The jokes, the calls, the comfort, they all come flooding back. Scarcity rewires attraction because it shifts focus from presence to memory. When you're gone, she starts idealizing you. Her brain fills in the blanks, amplifying the good and blurring the bad. This is why silence feels louder than words. Your absence makes her imagination do the work. And imagination always paints you in stronger colors than reality ever could. That's the hidden power of no contact. It lets her rediscover your worth without you having to say a word. Most men destroy this process because they fear being forgotten. They panic halfway through and reach out, trying to check in. But that's when they ruin the effect. You can't build scarcity if you keep reminding her you're still available. Scarcity only works when it's consistent. The longer you stay silent, the more powerful the perception of your value becomes. So remember this, you don't increase your worth by proving it, you increase it by removing it. When you pull your energy away, you give her the space to feel your value in its absence. That's when your presence starts to mean something again. That's when curiosity turns into desire, and desire turns into obsession. Point 5, it rebuilds self-respect and emotional control. The moment you commit to the no contact rule, something powerful happens. You start taking your focus off her and putting it back on you. Until now, your emotions probably revolved around her texts, her moods, her attention. Every message she sent lifted you. Every silence broke you. That's emotional dependence, and it's what kills attraction. But no contact breaks that cycle. When you stop reaching out, You reclaim the one thing that truly drives respect: control. At first, the silence hurts. You'll want to check your phone to see if she's online, to convince yourself that she still cares, but that temptation is exactly the test. Every time you resist it, you rebuild a piece of your strength. You prove to yourself that your peace isn't determined by someone else's reply. That's where real confidence comes from, not pretending to be strong, but choosing discipline over impulse. Here's what's happening beneath the surface. When you stop feeding her attention, you redirect that emotional energy inward. You start focusing on the gym, your goals, your habits, your purpose. That's not distraction, it's transformation. You're reprogramming your nervous system to stop chasing validation and start producing it from within. The more consistent you stay, the more your aura changes. People feel it, she feels it, because a man who can control his emotions gives off a completely different energy than a man ruled by them. Most men fail because they see no contact as a waiting game. They think it's about tricking her into missing them. It's not. It's about rebuilding your self-respect so you don't need her to validate your worth ever again. Ironically, that's what reignites attraction. When you no longer need her, she starts craving your energy again. So remember this: the no contact rule works because it changes the focus of power. It takes you from being reactive to being composed, from emotional to grounded. And the man who can stay calm in silence radiates strength. That's the man women think about when they're alone. That's the man who stops chasing and starts being chased. Point 6, it rewires her perception of you. When you go no contact, you don't just remove your presence, you reset how she sees you. Right now, she might associate you with neediness, emotional chasing, or constant availability. But the moment you disappear, her perception starts to shift. Because humans don't remember people as they were. They remember them by the emotions they left behind. And when your silence replaces the version of you she once knew, it forces her to reevaluate your worth. At first, she might feel confident. He'll text again. He always does. But as days turn into weeks and you still don't break, that confidence begins to crack. Her mind starts searching for explanations. Why hasn't he reached out? Has he moved on? Did I underestimate him? That uncertainty rewires the narrative. You're no longer the predictable man she could control emotionally. You're now the mystery she can't figure out. And mystery is what reignites attraction. Here's the psychology behind it. When someone expects you to act a certain way and you suddenly stop, their brain goes into confusion. It craves pattern recognition, but your silence breaks the pattern. That mental dissonance makes her think about you more. She starts replaying past moments, trying to connect dots, trying to understand who you really are now. And the more she reflects, the stronger the emotional pull becomes, because you're no longer the man she felt she could take for granted. Most men never get to this stage because they break no contact too soon. They want to prove they've changed by reaching out. But words don't change perception. Behavior does. The fact that you haven't reached out is the proof. Every day you stay silent, her respect rebuilds. Every moment you don't chase, her attraction grows. Your stillness becomes your power. Eventually, the silence flips the story completely. You go from being the man who wanted her to stay to being the man she's trying to figure out how to get back. That's the magic of the no contact rule. It doesn't just make her miss you, it makes her redefine you. And once a woman sees you through a new lens of strength and control, the dynamic will never be the same again. Point 7, it makes you magnetic through detachment. The final and most powerful reason the no contact rule works is simple but ruthless. It turns detachment into magnetism. When you no longer chase, when you stop begging for attention, when you genuinely detach from the outcome, you become the one thing women can't resist: unpredictable. She can feel it. She can sense when your energy no longer revolves around her. You go from being emotionally available on demand to being a man she can't read, can't predict, and can't fully have, and that drives her crazy. Here's the truth. Attachment repels, detachment attracts. When you were chasing her, everything about your energy screamed need. You wanted her to reply, to validate you, to choose you. That energy suffocates attraction. But when you step back, stop reacting, and move forward as if you've already accepted the loss, your energy shifts completely. Now, you're not trying to get her. You're focused on becoming you. You're grounded, centered, and emotionally unavailable to drama. That's what separates a man from a boy. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. You accept whatever happens, knowing you'll be fine either way. That level of emotional control is rare, and that rarity is what makes you magnetic. Because now she's dealing with a version of you who isn't ruled by fear, but by composure. She can feel your absence, but she can't manipulate it. And that uncertainty makes her chase. Psychologically, detachment triggers the investment instinct. The less validation she gets from you, the more she subconsciously invests in trying to earn it. She starts thinking about you more, checking your stories, wondering if you've moved on, imagining scenarios that might bring you back. That's not by accident. That's the natural effect of energy imbalance. You're no longer chasing her attention. Now she's chasing your emotional stability. So remember this. The no contact rule isn't about waiting for her to miss you. It's about transforming yourself into the kind of man who doesn't need to be missed. The one who stands tall, silent, and unbothered. Because once you reach that level of detachment, you stop being an option and you start being an obsession. And that's when she comes back. Not because you begged her to, but because she can't resist the pull of the man who no longer needs her. Conclusion. Now you understand why the no contact rule actually works. It's not a trick, it's transformation. It's the moment you stop chasing, stop explaining, and stop trying to convince someone of your worth. Silence creates contrast, shifts the power dynamic, forces reflection, and rebuilds your value through scarcity. It makes her reevaluate everything she thought she knew about you. But most importantly, it rebuilds you. It gives you back your focus, your strength, and your self-respect. When you detach, you change the energy completely. You stop being the man who waits for replies and become the man who controls his reality. That composure is magnetic because it's rare. It makes her wonder. It makes her miss you. And it makes her question how she lost someone who refuses to chase. That's not manipulation. That's mastery. No contact isn't silence for revenge. It's silence for power. Because when you stop trying to be chosen, you start becoming remembered. The man who can walk away with calm confidence is the man who always gets pulled back. Not because he begged to be loved, but because he became impossible to forget.